You are listening to Sound Experience. Explore the vast world of audio production through the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, your voice of the music biz. I'm your host, Tim Dolbear, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. Beautiful day outside, I must add. Before we get started, I wanted to give a big thanks to our sponsors, FrontEndAudio.com, your ultimate pro audio dealer, and the Blackbird Academy in Nashville, hands-on training for studio and live sound. So, this is our first show here on Intertalk Radio. And I wanted to give a big thank you to the team at Intertalk Radio for reaching out to me and making this all happen. Very, very, very cool. So, on with the show, Sound Experience. Let me tell you a little bit about what this is about, and we will dive into it. So, Sound Experience is just a show about our experiences in the studio. If you're recording in a bedroom, if you're recording in a multi-million-dollar facility, there's different experiences and things you try that are off the beaten path and stuff we don't talk about necessarily, and just different things. And it's that kind of sharing where we all grow in our skills. So we're going to have special guests on each week, top engineers, producers, musicians, manufacturers, the guys that work at the manufacturers that actually build the tools that we use in the studio every day. And I encourage you to submit questions to our guest on our Facebook page. So our Facebook page is facebook.com/Sound Experience Radio. You can also learn more about me, your host, Tim Dolbear, at www.timdolbear.com. So, let's look at the calendar a little bit real fast. Coming up in the future weeks, the weeks ahead, next week we have legendary rock vocalist from the band TNT. He also had a stint with Skid Row and some other bands. Tony Harnell will be on the show. He will be talking about his 30-plus years in the studio recording vocals. There's so much knowledge to pull from this guy. It's amazing. Can't wait for it. Then on the 18th, tentatively, we have on multi-Grammy winning producer, engineer, and mixer Ross Hogarth. Hey, he's going to kill me for screwing up his name. Ross Hogarth is going to be on the show. If you don't know who he is, look up his discography on his website. It is stunning, the amount of work that he has gotten to be on. It's just great. Then on the 25th, we have Mark Rubel from the Blackbird Academy. He's going to be in here talking about his 30 or so years working in the studio and as a bass player, as a musician, but he has this wealth of knowledge about recording studios and how things happened, and it's just, you can sit and talk with him for hours. He is not just going to give you ideas on, hey, you should mic a snare drum like this. He talks about things such as the first Elvis recordings. If they hadn't been recorded in that room in Memphis with linoleum floors and square walls and everything, it wouldn't have sounded the same, and rock and roll might not have had a signature sound that people latched onto. So everything plays a part. And he talks about the different experiences involved in that. Very fascinating. So you can find links to all of this and to my page and to my blog and our Facebook page, all at intertalkradio.com/sound experiences. All right. So let's get on with today's show, shall we? So today we have on Grammy-nominated mastering engineer and owner of Coast Mastering in San Francisco, Mr. Michael Romanowski. Michael, thank you for being on our first show.
Hey.
Oh.
This is Florentino.
Has he been disconnected?
Yeah, he called in.
Tino, my producer.
Yeah, he called in and for some reason it got disconnected. I can hear the phone ringing now. I just want to kind of let you know, Tim, we are so excited to have you on the network. We've been good friends for some time.
Oh, thank you.
And you are just an amazing wealth of information. And I love the fact that we're bringing you on a host and you were tech support while we were getting this new system that we have up with our good friends over at Source Elements and Source Connect. So, with that said, Michael is now connected. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Michael on.
All right.
Hi. Hello. Sorry
hey,
for being a 3-minute
how are
party.
you
I was
doing
having trouble
today?
I was having trouble getting connected. Howdy, everybody.
Oh, cool. I'm doing good. I'm so grateful that you joined us for our first show. I couldn't think of anyone else that I'd rather have. It's just, I had met you this time last year, last June or July. I came to your studio when it was in San Francisco, and we sat down and we started talking, and I realized this is someone that I could be friends with and talk to for hours and hours on end. And so I'm hoping we will be able to do that today.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I felt the same way, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that. That's so awesome.
So a lot's happened since I was at your studio in downtown San Francisco last June or July. Can you give us the backstory of everything that's happened in the whole creation of Coast Mastering?
Yes, I was trying to think of a witty response, but here's the nutshell. Yeah, I was thinking of, first I got up and I had a lot of coffee, and then thanks for asking. So I was at the place where I was at. I had moved into the facility that I was at on Mission Street that Tim, that you had come to. There were two businesses there. Let's see, how much backstory to go to. I moved there 14 years ago. I moved into that facility with my partner, Paul Stubblebine. At the time, Paul and I were working together. Paul was also somebody I had worked with at Rocket Lab. When I moved from Nashville to San Francisco to get into mastering, Paul was my mentor and friend, and we worked together for a number of years and then split apart and then rejoined up in... I was at Rocket Lab. I left there. I went to started a room at the plant in Sausalito, record plant, and was there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then reconnected with Paul at Hyde Street, where he had moved to after Rocket Lab had gone away. And we had started working together for about a year. And in that time, we were looking for a facility to go to, and we came across what was the old Coast Recorders in San Francisco had been turned into a place called Coast. Coast Recorders, back for a lot of history here, but Coast had been in three different locations in San Francisco, and this was the second location. It moved to a third, and when it did, it turned into a facility called Toast, still doing recording. Well, we found that place had gone out of business, and it was perfect for us to move a mastering business in, so we had taken over two of the rooms and built two purposely built mastering rooms. And Paul had acquired the name Coast Recorders back again from the owner, from where it was in its third iteration. So we had two businesses running out of there, Coast Recorders and Paul Stubblebine Mastering. And I was working with Paul, and we did that for a number of years. After about 5 years, Paul moved into semi-retirement, and I took over the business and took over the recording studio in the back also. We had somebody come in and was running it under Coast, and then it was under another name. A friend of mine, Matt Boudreau, had his studio called Broken Radio, and we had long talked about working together, and so Matt came over for a number of years and ran Broken Radio out of the back, and then when it was time for him to move on, I took it over and ran Coast Recorders, and so doing the two businesses at one time, the Coast Recorders and Michael Romanowski Mastering, and did that for another decade. And just recently, so Tim, when you were there, it was I was trying to acquire. It's a long story, but San Francisco business had really has blossomed. The .com V2.0 has gone crazy, and real estate had gone up. And I'd been trying to acquire the building for a number of years, and it was all very promising and all very great. Then at the right about that time, Twitter had moved in a couple of years prior, taken over the block behind me. Dolby had taken over the other block. Uber had taken over the block next to it. And so it just became not feasible for me to do that. And so I started poking around, and I looking for spaces to move to. And very fortunately, I just had a meeting with Jeffrey Wood, who runs Fantasy Studios, and was asking him, about space, if he knew of any space. We were just hanging out, and he said, "Well, we have the space here at this facility. Let me show it to you." And we walked back in, and it was the studio was originally built for Creedence Clearwater Revival. They were here in this building from 68 to 74, and although the funny part was this was their studio that was built for them, they actually never recorded anything or released anything that was recorded here. When they moved out, it turned into a Foley room. So it was the Foley room for the Saul Zaentz Media Center. So this facility had turned into the Foley that had been on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Apocalypse Now and Amadeus and Boogie Nights and thousands of other things that they had done. In the last decade, it had just been sitting as an empty room that was the rehearsal room for the building owner's son's band and a storage place. And so it turned out that, I said, hey, look, this is perfect for me. I would love to come in and turn this into a mastering facility. And it worked out for everybody involved, and it worked out for the building. And now I'm in the Fantasy Complex, so they've got 3 thriving studios in there. They're doing fantastic and great rooms. And so we have a nice partnership, and it turned out great. We took the control room, turned it into Piper's room, added a staff person. Jessica Thompson she moved out here from the Magic Shop in New York back in the summer and has joined our staff. She's also part of the team. And then we turned in the tracking room. We rebuilt that into my surround room. So I've got capabilities of stereo and surround. The other room is a stereo room. Jessica does restoration and archival and mastering, and Piper does the mastering. And so we've got 3 of us engineers here on staff and part of the team, and added Johnny Rigo as our manager when we moved over, and it's been fantastic ever since. And I was a little reluctant to move out of that space. I thought this is a classic old room. I can't move out of Coast. This is a Bill Putnam room. This is fantastic. This is
exactly.
Mercury Records.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. We're going into a break. So we'll be back in a couple minutes to continue. You've been listening to Sound Experience with Standard Talk Radio, your music business talk leader. Be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
The richness of your life is reflected in the shimmering elegance found at Diolune Design. One-of-a-kind jewelry and pieces from Cynthia Dillon in silver and gold help to express your unique personality. The flowing designs of her creations will empower the way you move throughout your day. Join us online at DIOLUNdesigns.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
In the military, things can change in an instant. At Navy Mutual Aid Association, we understand because it's our life too. That's why our dedication to serving the life insurance needs of our military veterans and their families is unrivaled. Navy Mutual offers superior life insurance protection without military service restrictions and limitations. A single focus on providing the peace of mind military families are looking for. That's what we do. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve. Call 800-628-6011 or go to NavyMutual.org.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect. Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
are listening to Sound Experience. Explore the vast world of audio production through the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, this is Tim on Sound Experience, and we're talking with Michael Romanowski of Coast Mastering. So we were talking about how you guys got set up and got going with the new location.
Hey, Tim, sorry, and that was a little long-winded. Sorry, it took us right to the break.
Oh, no, it's perfect.
Much, deep information, which I'm sure everybody has probably questions of, mastering questions rather than that kind of stuff. But needless to say, I'm really happy to be here. I was a little reluctant to leave a classic studio, and it turns out I found my way to another classic studio, and I'm super thrilled to be here. I love the room. I love all the rooms, the whole space here. The vibe feels great, and the team is awesome, and I couldn't be happier. So very, very thrilled. Oh, and you asked about that. So the other change was I thought, well, I had Michael Romanowski mastering, and I had Coast Recorders. Let's put it together. Coast is going away, a little homage to the past, and I wanted to get beyond my name as the company goes. So that turned into Coast Mastering. And I don't know if you have seen the logo, but it's a combination of the two logos as well, the Mastering logo and the Coast logo. And so I thought that the classic recognizable name, and it just alliteration flows real well for me and feels right. And so that's what I went to. And so
absolutely.
Since October, we've been Coast Mastering, and I'm unbelievably thrilled.
That's cool. Yeah, my producer, Tino, say hi, Tino, actually knows Piper.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, Michael? Awesome. Not this past.
How you doing? Nice to hear.
Good to meet you in person. We almost met for a brief. Well, we were actually supposed to have dinner together at not last NAMM, but the 2015 NAMM. Piper and Jared and the crew came and met with me and Michael Boddicker, who'll be starting the show with us here very shortly. And we kind of all.
Oh, awesome.
And you were going to come, but you ended up getting called away to something. So finally get a chance to meet. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I wish I got a chance to meet you. Yeah. Did you guys have a good dinner?
Yeah. Well, actually, the crew had to go back to San Francisco. We had to wait so long. You know how NAMM is. We waited so long, and it was just too crazy. And then, but they had a great time talking with Michael about all like the Michael Jackson sessions and a bunch of other stuff. So I think they got a lot of fun out of it. So that was cool.
Oh, great! Awesome. Well, cool. I'm sorry I missed you, but we'll have to find another time. Maybe next NAMM.
Yeah. Well, hey, we have so many programs, and who knows, man? We might have you on a couple other programs at some point in time. This network is all about the musicians, by us who are musicians and people in the business, and and all of course, the incredible technicians that make this all a reality. So much appreciated you coming on board with this new show, Sound Experience, as well as the network EnterTalk Radio.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, I'm really happy to do so. And any chance I get to talk about stuff and try to help knowledge, it's given back to the industry. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge and information out there. Let's get people anything I can do to help raise the bar of the music that we're making for what I think is an incredibly important art form. So happy to help.
Yep. Cool. Well, let's dive into the meat and potatoes part of it, and let me give a little background on this next line of questions for other people who are listening in with our conversation, that so they understand what I'm talking about. I want to make sure this doesn't go over anyone's head, because mastering is a different style of thing than most people do. Most people don't really know much about it. I want to go down the thought process of pitching and capturing, or playback and recording during the mastering process, in order to get a loop through of your audio gear. So when we talk about this, picture one digital audio workstation that's playing the stereo song. It leaves that computer and goes through an analog chain, meaning an analog EQ, an analog compressor, and then is captured back in on a secondary system and is recorded back in. That way you're doing all of your processing with an analog signal chain, as opposed to using digital plugins and doing everything in the box. So that's kind of the definition of what we're going to be talking about for a minute, so people can picture it in our heads. And my first thing I wanted to throw at you is, do you always use a loop through an analog chain, or depending on the styles of music, do you sometimes go completely in the box?
Great question. My personal feeling, and so I should say with and Tim, with about any of the answers I'm going to give for a lot of this kind of stuff, it's my opinion. There are definitely different ways of doing things. Different people have their different ways of doing things, and in the end, what we're looking for is the results that makes the client happy, and whatever works along the way for any particular person to get to the result that we take the art form where it needs to go is awesome.
Right.
My particular style, so my opinion on this, is that I prefer analog equipment. I prefer the sound of electrons running through things rather than the math that happens with something else. So I never do, I have to say never, and I think I can say that actually, a totally in-the-box project. I always do the pitch catch, as you say, playing out of one system through D to A into my console. I select the analog gear that I'm going to use. I may or may not use a series of compressors or series of EQs. I have different ones that have different flavors and different sounds. So the very first thing I do is listen to the project and decide what is it going to need. Does it need a little bit of this? Does it need, how about this piece of gear? How about that? Or maybe nothing at all. And then I'll capture back into another system with an A to D, and then I listen back out of the second system as a D to A back into the console to hear on the back side of any adjustments that I've been making. So my personal preference is I always use analog. I rarely use plugins, maybe only for a touch-up of something. If I get done with the record and, there's like a tiny adjustment needs to happen to one song or something, if it's something small
right.
And tiny, I'll go back through and I'll do something to it in the box. If it's something that might need another going a different direction, I'll pull up I log everything. I write down all of my notes, and I will recall the notes, and I will start over if I feel like the change is significant enough that I can't do it with a plugin. So
great. Yeah, talking with Joe Palmisio.
It's always a sketch for me.
Sorry, we have a little bit of latency on our conversation. Talking with Joe Palmisio, one of the things he would say is basically that if the client came back on a revision and it was, can you bring down the bottom end like half a dB? He'd just do that to the captured version of the master. He'd do that in the box, and as opposed to going through a whole nother cycle through the analog gear.
Correct. And but if it was something that was significant, like if it needs to be, there's and we can get away, maybe the whole loudness. I hate going down that path sometimes of the loudness stuff. But sometimes if it needs something that is dynamically different, it doesn't always work in the box for me. It doesn't. It folds up in a different way, or I may choose to go back to the analog chain because I can find that the resultant can be better. But sometimes not. Sometimes it works perfectly fine to say, let's just pull off just a little bit of, I guess usually one of the things about that is that if the energy difference is, if you're adding more energy after the fact, it generally doesn't work for me. If you're taking away energy after the fact in an EQ-wise or something like that, then sometimes more times than not, it does work to my ears.
And energy meaning like if you're doing subtractive EQing as opposed to boosting.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. It actually kind of moves into, you had mentioned loudness wars, and one of our listeners, Mark Daniels, wrote to you about that specifically, wanted to know your opinion. So his question is, I would like to know what Michael thinks about the loudness wars and what referencing level meters does he use during his mastering?
Oh, yeah, good question. Okay, so the loudness wars, thankfully we're moving away from that a bit. So I have a handful of, actually a truck full of soapboxes, and one of them is about the loudness thing. I see that we're finally moving a bit back from that, and I'll be honest with you. There's no, and I'm kind of a purist, and I'll throw that out there. I understand that getting what you want out of how something gets immediately hit. But I tell you what I find is that the loudness is related. The loudness is related to people's perception. There's the immediate gratification of here's something that's loud and in your face, and then here's something you have to turn up just a little bit. But what I find is the loud and in your face is impressive initially, but not over the long haul. what happens is you get a lot fatigued as a listener to the loud stuff, the highly compressed stuff. I mean, there's only a finite amount of energy. We can get a little technical about, how many ones and zeros in a 0 dB FS file. But when you've got really it's all ones, you get to that point that it's so fatiguing. The amp can't work, the speakers can't work, they can't work as efficiently as they want to work, and your ears don't work as well. You start to tense up the muscles. There's no movement, the air movement, like a speaker not being able to do a full excursion. The same thing happens reciprocally with your eardrums. And when you start to push your ears, they tighten up and you get fatigued. And the solution to that, subconsciously or consciously, is to move on to something else. But if it's just as loud, you'll keep moving on. And some would say that's why we've gotten into this trend of singles versus albums, is because we're pummeling our ears, and we think that the way to be able to reduce the fatigue is to move on to something else. The other side of that loudness is that we end up turning it down. We turn the volume down, so then it doesn't become art. It becomes a soundtrack to our lives as a background music thing. It's something that is so flat that we have to turn it down, and we don't actually listen to it as music. It just becomes something that covers up the sound of other things, around us, and we're not actively listening. One of the things I find about the loudness and leaving dynamics in things.
Well, here, hang on. Hold that next thought. Hold that thought, because we're going into a commercial break. So we'll pick that back up when we come back here in a second. So you've been listening to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the leader in music biz talk. We'll be back in a minute.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
You are listening to Sound Experience. Explore the vast world of audio production through the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, that's right. Sound Experience powered by Intertalk Radio. Want to give another shout out to some of our sponsors, Front End Audio. That's the place where you buy all of your high-end studio gear, and Blackbird Academy, which is just my favorite school. Hate to say it with all the other ones I teach at, but it's my favorite school for hands-on training, being in a real studio in a real situation. For studio and live sound, it's the best for training. Okay, well, Michael, let's get back to what we were talking about.
Shout out Blackbird. Awesome.
Are you serious?
Love Blackbird and all the guys over there. Rolf and Mark and everybody. Awesome. And Karma and everybody involved with Blackbird. Love that place. Fantastic. So, okay.
Me too.
Back to back to loudness. That's what we were talking about. You know, I think the best thing we can do, in making records is creating something that somebody listens to. They're actively listening to it, and I find that the loudness is something that pushes people away into passivity. And I'm glad that we're moving away from that a bit. We're getting to the spot where the loudness is not as important. We've got, everything that's going on with the European broadcast and standards and what we're adopting over here, streaming and sound check for Apple, and all of these other things are showing that we don't need to make things loud. One of the big misnomers is that making things loud makes them sound better on the radio, which is exactly backwards. And making lossy, compressed audio files, data compressed, louder makes them sound worse also. So the fact that we're getting to a spot where we're actually pulling back a little bit and realizing that there's more life and longevity into something that breathes. If I could jump on another soapbox real quick, I think it's one of those things.
Sure.
We tend to use compression throughout the process of making records. I think as a crutch, a lot of ways. To me, it's like spackle or putty that a carpenter would use by making a bad cut, trying to put something together, and then just fill it full of putty and paint over it. I think that, if we pull back a little bit, the things that make music engaging is the human nature about it, the humanity, the imperfections in the voice, the subtle variations in timing, and the transients. Rather than auto-tuning everything and beat detective everything and then compressing every instrument, every group, then the master out, and then the master also, leaving some life into it is something that allows us to be pulled into it rather than pushed back by it. And I feel like we're really kind of getting back to that spot, and I love it. It's awesome.
There's nothing better than when I jump in my car and I put on an old Fleetwood Mac album that was mastered, the original version of it, so it's not been remastered and smashed or anything. And you crank it up and you hear that snare drum just start driving the drivers on the speaker on that popping sound. Oh, it's just wonderful. When I want it loud, I can have it loud and I can just have it do that thing. But when I need it quiet, it actually quiets down. You can't do that with a smashed record. You just can't. There's nothing there.
Right. Right. And when you've got no dynamics. I mean, even just looking at the sheer work of the amplifier and the speakers, what we're trying to do is recreate air movement. And let's say you have a receiver, whether car, home, or headphones, or whatever it happens to be, and give it an arbitrary number. Let's say it goes up to 10 is full volume. If you can't get it past 1 or 2, the amplifier is not working to its best potential and signal-to-noise ratio. The speakers aren't creating the volume, the rarefication of the air that needs to happen to be able to get the full waveform development, especially low-frequency stuff. And you're absolutely right. We put on old records, and maybe that's why people like listening to old vinyl now. Maybe that's why that's come back a bit. We put on old records, and you go, wow, this really moves me. It speaks to me. I can dig into it. And, again, you get pulled into it rather than pushed back. Yeah, I love what you're saying, Tim.
Exactly.
One of my favorite things is to get in the car and put on a record and go for a drive. It's awesome.
Yep. Okay, change directions a little bit. Mark Fuller, a good friend of mine, had a great question for you also. He wanted to know what are some of the common reasons and techniques for using mid-side processing during mastering?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's start with, does everybody, are we going to assume everybody knows what mid-side techniques are and how it's a variation of a miking technique, a stereo miking technique, that allows us to take the left-right or some indifference on a vinyl record, for instance, the some indifference, the mid and the side, and treat them differently, taking a left-right, converting it to mid and side, and then converting it back to left and right. And in that process, there are several things that makes it very beneficial. Let's say, for instance, even simply, let's say somebody has mixed on headphones, and their mix environment is such that they maybe get a better sonic representation by being on headphones. But it's very common at that point to have the center image be a little bit low because it's in the middle of your head, not out in front of you. So mid-side allows you to go in and just turn the mid up with regards to the volume of the sides and balance that out. And a lot of times what's in the center is the lead vocal and kick drum and bass, and a lot of those anchor things are in the middle. And if they're a little bit weaker, it creates a different sonic space because of the headphone mix, and you want to pull it up a little bit. So that's a big benefit there. Also, another reason for doing something like that, let's say something comes to me and it's, let's say it's got a dull vocal, but the cymbals are really bright, and they're panned off to the sides a little bit. I want to be able to bring the vocal, if I can, get rid of the frequencies that are keeping it from being clear, and maybe it's subtracted EQ to help the vocal feel a little bit more natural, but then the cymbals could get too bright and be too splashy, or the snare drum be too wincy, or the guitars or something like that, that I could then go into the center, change affect the EQ of the center a bit that's more pointed toward the vocal, and maybe conversely go to the side, dim down the top a little bit on the side, and really help balance the frequency response across the whole wall of the front a little bit better by having that control to be able to dig in a little bit better.
Right. In a stereo file, if you had tried doing that, you would have run over the frequencies shared. For instance, if you tried to brighten the vocals, the cymbals would just get more and more bright and harsher at the same time because they're occupying that same range you're going for. But in mid-side, the cymbals are hopefully in the side signal, not being affected by the EQ that's just EQing the middle or mid. There's a project that I had in here a couple years back where it was a very etherealistic type of a song, a mix, and therefore, for some reason, it seemed dull on the outside, and I wanted the stereo field kind of bright and almost wispy sounding. So I was able to EQ in a very, very high shelf and just bring some air into the sides without affecting the stuff in the middle, such as the snare drum, the vocals, and things like that, the guitar. And just that outside stuff that they had stuck, which was mostly reverbs and string pads, and they were able to brighten up really nicely by using a mid-side EQ.
Yes, exactly. And that's a good point too. Is the air? A lot of times you want to bring out a sense of space a little bit, but you don't want it to be any brighter. If you ended up making it brighter, it would be it would be too much on that level. But if you could go in on the sides and just give it a little bit of boost 15K or something like that, what you end up doing is pulling out a little bit of the ambient cues, the things that give you their so low level in detail or resolution, the very down there energy-wise, but it opens up the sense of space a bit without doing any spatialness to it or without doing any brightness to it. So it can be a very, very helpful technique.
Very cool. Okay, well, two people asked this next question in different ways. So Mark alluded to it, as well as Michael also mentioned something about it. So I'm going to combine their two questions. We have 2 minutes basically left on this segment. What level do you listen to in the studio, meaning not level of the actual levels for the music, but the actual level in the room of it, and how do you deal with listening fatigue when you start getting listening fatigue?
Awesome question. Or awesome two questions.
In 2 minutes.
So
here we go.
I listen to, I generally listen at about 78 or 80 dB is about my average listening level. It's always worthwhile to be, when dialing stuff in, and I feel good about where it is, I'll check it at low level. I'll turn it up a little bit and listen to it and see how it handles, how the ear responds, the Fletcher-Munson curve, and how we perceive at different levels changes our perception about what's going on. I feel comfortable and dialed in at about 78 to 80 dB, sometimes 81 or 82 maybe, and then check it at the different levels once I feel good about where it is. So that's about how loud I normally listen, and frankly, that also helps with the fatigue because I'm not listening very loudly to what's going on. I'm not pushing my eardrums. The other side of the fatigue question would be that I also have my system is really dialed in. My speakers, my amplifiers have plenty of juice. I have good cabling and my D to A converters and everything I'm listening to. So listening on very resolute speakers, I don't need to. They're not working too hard to shout at me. And I find that that's one of the things that if you have underpowered amps or speakers that aren't very efficient, they tend to be a little bit more fatiguing, easier. Earlier in the process of the day.
That would make sense.
The other question,
that would make sense because the harder.
Now and then, you know?
True. Yeah, step outside and throw the ball for the dog. That's my world. So we got about 15 seconds, and on the amplifier thing, yes, absolutely. If the amp is underpowered, it's having to work, and you're already starting to get more and more distortions happening, even though you're not really hearing it. And that, of course, adds to the fatigue that happens. Having extra headroom on the amplifiers keeps the signal clean and allows your ears to enjoy it for a longer amount of time. So we'll be back in a couple minutes with Michael Romanowski. This has been Sound Experience powered by Intertalk Radio, the leader in music biz talk. Back in a minute.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Attention business owners. Does it feel like your business owns you? See if you qualify for a free 90-minute business coaching session to help you build a business, not a job. During this free 90-minute strategic consultation, one of our senior coaches will help you map out the best way to grow your company and get your life back. To learn more, go to MauiMasterminds.com/scale now. That's MauiMasterminds.com/scale now.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at which.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, which.com.
You are listening to Sound Experience. Explore the vast world of audio production through the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer, Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to the last segment of the Sound Experience Show, powered by Intertalk Radio, the leader in music biz talk. Got a couple more questions for you. One, hopefully, is a really quick one because I have a feeling the second one is going to be pretty in depth. So, Justin Schmidt has asked, where do you like the main dB output to be pre-mastered to? And I think what he's asking for is when you get a track in, a stereo mix in, where would you like to see the level set to? Peaking at like -3 or what type of thing?
Oh, there you are. Oh, sorry, I had you muted for a second.
There you are.
Good question. Yeah, sorry about that. Good question. I like to have some headroom. It's always good to have some room to be able to work. I mean, the worst thing is having to turn something down before I get started on it. So, -3 is good. -6 is better. When you're looking at higher resolution, and I mean, let's start with 24-bit. You can turn it down a fair amount. There's really no reason it ever needs to be turned up. Kind of goes back to that in hand the question about the loudness in what gets delivered to me as files for mastering. What I don't want to see, having some headroom to be able to do some work was what I require, because that allows me to, as we talked in the previous segment about energy and being able to adjust the energy present, add or subtract or however it goes, and have some room to not have to do something else in conjunction with that, to be able to have some freedom. But the other side of that is it's not the same thing to be able to compress and limit the output of the master bus of the mix, and then take, so it's squared off at the top, and then turn it down 3 or 6 dB or whatever, and then give it to me. And that's not the same thing. What I'd like to see is that ideally that there's nothing on the master bus. And here's another big soapbox. And
right,
I think that there shouldn't ever be anything on the master bus to begin with. I think there's no need for that. That's my personal preference and my own opinion. I think that EQ on the master bus is a wrong way to go about adjusting something that you need to address the EQ of the final version of what the mix, what's coming out of the master bus. The same thing with EQ, or the same thing with any dynamics on the master bus. To me, I don't feel like it's a flavor that should be added sparsely if it's a sound that you like, but not from the standpoint of trying to make it loud. If you want to put tape emulator, if you want to run it through something else because you like the glue that it gives or the vibe that it has, awesome, but not for loudness sake. There's no reason with 24-bit, the math involved, and especially if you get up to 88 or 96K or 192, there's enough resolution that the noise floor is non-existent for the most part, that you don't even have to worry about that. You can turn it down. No reason to turn it up. So in that case, I would recommend to somebody that, -12 is fine if they want. I can handle that. I can get it back up. I can make it louder than you can, so there's no reason for it to be that loud. I do understand that the necessity sometimes of giving your clients, as a mix engineer, giving your client something that is kind of in line with what they're used to hearing, but they also have to. It's also up to the engineers to educate your clients and say, hey, look, there's still one more process here. You're going to be comparing this. It's your nature. It's going, there's no way around that. You're going to want to compare the mixes with things that you already know, and you're going to judge the mixes based on how close to something that's already released and done that's your favorite record. That's inevitable, and that's fine. But don't send that off to mastering. And also, when you do that, you have to let the client know also that you've done a quick job to get it to that, but that pulling back certainly may allow it to be able to be taken further than it could. So, a couple of cautions there. But given some headroom, I'd love to have, I'd love to say on average, I'd love to have 6 dB of headroom from peak. That would be great. And I don't mean RMS 6 dB. Big difference between peak and RMS. Headroom.
Big difference. Yeah, Justin Smith also asked about compression that you use to glue the mix together, but I have a feeling I want to actually address that in a whole nother show, because myself coming from a mixing standpoint and yourself coming with a mastering standpoint, the way that you glue things together is completely different type of use for compression, the way you're listening for it. For me, I'm listening from the very beginning and mixing into it, and we're talking 1 dB of compression on my, Manley Variable Mu Mastering Edition compressor.
Right.
In mastering, you're coming at it from a secondary standpoint. You're not dealing with mixing stuff into it. You're doing it to a file it's already done. So I'd love to hit that topic on another show with you, because we have 3 minutes of time, and we could talk for an hour on that one.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. There is a little delay. Sorry about that. But yeah, I would love to talk to you about that, because I think that's one of I think that's one of the things that's hard for people to grasp a little bit, of the differences between the two, and what you're focusing on in the mixing world and what you're focusing on in the mastering world, the hats that you're wearing, and your attention to what your task really is, and the tools that you have to be able to do them need to be appropriate for the task at hand. And so, Tim, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk to you about that more. That could be a complete hour. And I think it's very useful for a lot of people.
Okay, I've written that one down. That'll be good. We'll have to start checking dates
you say
on
the
it.
word and I'll call in.
So we have...
It's awesome. I'd love it.
Awesome. Well, we have 3 minutes left, and so I'm going to give you the question of, what is it that you wish every client knew that you could tell them before they send you a project? What is the one thing you wish you could tell them that is outside the box of the normal, take off stuff off the master bus and stuff, and don't make it an MP3? What is the one piece of advice you'd love to throw at them?
Well, okay, so, we could talk about my one piece of advice could be a technical thing. It could be a delivery type of thing. But I think a more of a better way to, I think something that would be more helpful to be able to tell people is, be confident. Own your mixes. As a mix engineer, you're hired by the artist to represent their art. You're there to be able to take the pieces that they have and assemble them as a balance engineer in a way that is representative of the story they're trying to tell, or the emotion they're trying to get across. And what I find is that people try to rely on mastering as a way to help them finish their mixes. And that's not what mastering is. Mastering is more about the presentation of the body of work, not the collection of songs. It's more about, there's an artistic side to mastering, and there's a technical side about preparing for manufacturing and proper delivery and all of that kind of stuff. On the artistic side of things, as a mix engineer, you should walk in and say, look, I own this. This feels great to me. I love this. I'm here to do this, not kick the can down the road and say, well, as a recording engineer, I'll just put a microphone in something, capture it, and let the mix guy finish it and adjust the sound, because I don't know what I'm not sure where it's going to go, so I'll just capture it and we'll deal with it in the mix. And then what we don't want is then a mix engineer that says, well, I'm just going to put it together in a way, here we go, and I'll let the mastering guy finish it. That would be like us as mastering engineers, be able to say, well, tell you what, let's let the marketing guy fix it. We'll just put it together in the best way we can, and we'll let them market it as this is what it's supposed to be. So I think that the best advice I could give is be confident, own your mixes, and realize what your task at hand is, and enjoy it, love it, do it, and own it, and be confident.
That's great.
When I see people people come to me that aren't really confident, I'm not sure about this, and I don't know. Here's 4 different versions of this song. I don't agree with them for that very reason. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being on this. Thank you. And I can't wait to have you on here again, and we'll continue all of this. So, thank you very much.
Tim, thank you very much.
You guys have all been listening to...
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So happy to do it. Tim, you're awesome.
Absolutely. All right, you can contact us at intertalkradio.com. You can reach me directly at timdolbear.com. This has been Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the leader in music business talk. I'm Tim Dolbear, signing off from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. Now, go make some music.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Progressive Medical. Hey, this is Heidi Rue, and you know, Progressive Medical Center has literally changed my life and my health, but I'm not the only one. Adele suffered from bone deterioration, bone overgrowth, profound muscle discomfort, physical exhaustion, and mental fog. In fact, the bone deterioration becomes so serious that she had to have back surgery. Well, after the surgery, she still didn't feel well, and so that's when she heard about Progressive Medical Center. Progressive Medical Center discovered that her adrenals weren't working properly, her hormones were out of whack, and the drugs she had been taking were doing more harm than good. Adele came into Progressive Medical Center in a walker, physically and mentally exhausted. But now she's a world traveler. She hikes and walks several miles a day, and it's all thanks to Progressive Medical Center. 770-676-6000. 770-676-6000. Progressive Medical. This is your life. Live it well.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.